Now, for the show that brings combat sports stories to life from the great state of Ohio, this is Forged in Ohio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 49 of Forged in Ohio. My name is Jake Murren, and I'm the host of the podcast. I always enjoy welcoming fighters on the show for the second time, and when this professional fighter joined me, I had just announced the launch of the Forged in Ohio Instagram page. It feels like episode 13 was forever ago, and there has definitely been enough to happen in the Flyin Hawaiian's career to have him back on the show. It's, of course, Josh, the Flyin Hawaiian Perreira. Thanks for coming on again, Josh, and welcome back to Forged in Ohio.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Always an honor. Always an honor.
Yeah, of course. So I know there's a lot to talk about ahead of your fight at Ohio Combat League 26, but I want to kind of start in chronological order from when you were on the first time on the show. You were 1-0 then. You're now, of course, 2-0 as a professional fighter with your win at LFA 160 in June. Before we get into the fight itself, what was it like fighting on a big stage like LFA, which, of course, is a promotion known for developing UFC talent?
It was insane. The venue was gigantic. The cage was gigantic. It was also very slippery as well. But everything was so professional. Everything was laid out. It was great. But the bigger the shows get, you notice that they it's all the same at the end of the day. Here, pardon me for 1 second. Sorry. Yeah, it's they're all the same. I thought I was gonna have like this big, like, oh gosh, it's so cool, but it's just like it was just the same. Fight's a fight. I had a game opponent in front of me that was out of Glover Teixeira and Alex Perreira's gym. Yeah, just a stud of a striker, very good grappler. He got me into some bad positions, even hyperextended my arm and almost got me with the armbar, but I endured. I allowed my elbow to pop out, and I finished him with a spinning back fist in the third round. It just felt like another day. Just felt like another day on the job.
Yeah, so when you say that, like, the pressure didn't get to you at all fighting for LFA, fighting on that big stage when you arrived. I'm sure everything was not so much like better than every other promotion you fought for, but I'm sure the scale was just a little bit bigger. None of that got to you.
No, not at all. At the end of the day, win, lose, draw, the people that always support me are always going to be there. Might get a couple of new fans along the way, but no pressure makes diamonds, and I felt like there was no pressure at all. No pressure at all.
LFA 160 was loaded with Ohio fighters, almost like an Ohio against the world type of card, with 9 fighters having connections to the state. Was that a comfortable feeling? What was it like being able to compete alongside a lot of familiar faces like that?
Oh, it was so cool. Mateo, Josiah, Mindless Hulk, Chelsea, and Jade on the card as well. I wish Jade's fight went on a little longer, though. I'll tell you that. She got the armbar in the first 45 seconds. I had just gotten my gloves and hands wrapped too. So Matt was holding the pads right in front of me. I did a 1-2, and I was like, okay, let's get the good sweat going. Then all of a sudden, Mr. Perreira, you're up. Excuse me, you're up. Armbar in the first round, 45 seconds. Like, oh gosh. So I had to scramble, but yet again, it was amazing. It was amazing to be on a card with a lot of local talent, and I'm sure I will be on bigger and better cards with a lot more of the Ohio guys as well one day. Maybe in the UFC, maybe Bellator, maybe any big organization down the line. But no matter what organization it is, we're going to show out, man. We're going to show out, and we're going to take over.
Absolutely. So with the fight itself, I know you mentioned the armbar submission in the second round, I believe, and you talked about how you hyperextended your arm. Did the thought of tapping ever come across your mind in that moment?
No, not at all. In training, I allow my arm. I'm pretty flexible, so my arm does bend a little bit more than it should. But once I felt that pop, once I felt that weird pressure on the side of my elbow, and it was like I was so in the moment. He went belly down, and I was able to go from here to here. just to alleviate some pressure on the joint itself. So he was pressing on the side, and I was so in the moment. I remember I had a cut on my nose, and the blood dripped down from my nose and went straight to Itzik's thigh. And I remember I was looking up at the ref, and he was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, just give me a second." And I remember looking through his legs, and I saw Gilbert Melendez on the far side freaking out as well. Just this, just all this stuff. I was so in the moment, and the thought of tapping didn't even pass through my head. He was going to have to break it, but it was either it was going to break or he was going to give up, and I endured, and he gave up, and I capitalized, and I swiveled him around. I had him. His back of his head was facing the fence, so I was looking almost directly into Coleman, my coach Mark Coleman's face, and he was just like, "Get on him, on him, on him," and I just kept going until that bell rang. And when the third round, the bell for the third round rang, I knew I had it. I had it.
Yeah, that's insane to me because I know lesser fighters probably would have tapped in that submission. How do you, I guess, not panic in a submission like that and allow yourself to get out of it rather than making it worse or causing that to actually be the end of the fight?
Just a lot of training, a lot of I put myself into really bad situations when I'm training, and I have to work my way out of it. And in training, of course, you're allowed to tap, you're allowed to fail, but when I'm in there, I don't see failure. I see my hand being raised every time.
Of course, it's listed on Tapology as a third round knockout via ground and pound elbows. Can you walk me through the finishing sequence in that final round?
Absolutely. I was shaking my arms out. Or at least my left one, at least I was shaking it out. Touch gloves, and we immediately spun around. I threw a jab. I cut an angle, got the calf kick in. I switched to southpaw, landed another solid body kick to the liver, kind of curled over, and I went 1-2, and I stepped back into orthodox, and I saw him. It was just something I saw. He went hook body, and something told me hook body, and I was like, okay, and I just spun, and my footing wasn't, or it wasn't my footing. It was just so slick and so slippery inside of that cage that I hit him. And I remember spotting him over my shoulder, and I was turning, and I flew into the opposite direction. And when I looked back up, I thought he was going to be on me, but I saw him just falling over. His eyes had glazed over, and he was just kind of shaken up. So I dove right on top of him, started hammer fisting, got him up against the fence, was able to tie up his arm, and I finished it with elbows. Then I just kept going and going and going until that ref pulled me off. Was it excessive shots? Maybe, but it's my job to keep going, and it's the ref's job to take me off when he sees enough.
I love seeing that the finish came with elbows, knowing that you train at Immortal. Matt Brown had to be pleased with that finish, right?
And absolutely. That's even as an amateur, I've been drilling it with Matt. After everybody leaves, Matt's still there. Hey, can I try some stuff? He's like, oh, or he just pulls me off to the side. Oh, come here, and he just beats me up for another hour. But yeah, elbows. We've been working on those extensively, and I'll be sure to showcase some new tricks and new tools in my upcoming fight, October 7th.
I apologize if I asked you this the first time, but the way you kind of talk about that finishing sequence in your last fight, just knowing exactly how it went down. I've talked to other fighters where in the moment in the fight, they kind of black out, and on the other side, they're like, oh, what exactly happened in there? Are you just so dialed in that in the fight you're in that present mind where you can actually remember step by step by step how you got the finish?
Yes. I feel, and this is me personally, I can go through the entire fight, and I can say this happened, I messed up here, I have to improve on this. I did really good here, but what else could I improve on this? I can take it step by step by step every single one of my fights and every single sequence. You spar sparring is very important, and you see certain things, you see certain tendencies, and once you recognize something, you act on it. But even more important than that, the drilling is even more important. So you just keep drilling, 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 and once you see your opponent do that thing, you're just like, holy crap, I've been working to counter this, or I've seen this before in sparring. I know what to do. Of course, somebody else would have probably just thrown a right hand, but something told me to spin, and I spun.
Yeah, so when you break down your fight at LFA 160, how happy are you with the performance? How would you grade it overall at LFA 160?
I'd say 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, maybe even lower than that. He connected on some very, very good shots, but I was able to pressure him going back. I put myself into some bad situations, or he put me into some bad situations. Almost got flashed up a triangle. I was able to get out, but that armbar, I had gotten out of a couple of his armbar attempts, and I kind of didn't give it any respect. So when the third one came on, it was very lazy, so I just kind of let it happen, and then all of a sudden, all that pressure, and I was like, "Holy crap, is this it? No, I'm gonna keep fighting." But maybe it was because of the lack of a warm up. Maybe it was where my head was. I don't know, but um, we always overcome and adapt, and I'm just happy I got the W off of that.
Always in the pursuit of perfection. I love to hear it. By the way, how long did the hyperextension take to fully heal?
Um, week and a half maybe. It comes and goes, but we got to keep training.
Nothing too serious.
No, not at all.
Good. Talking to
Thank
Josh.
goodness I'm just a little flexible.
Good stuff there. Talking to Josh the Flyin Hawaiian Perreira on Forged in Ohio. So your third pro fight goes down October 7th, Ohio Combat League 26. It's against Luke K9 Chokan, who I've also had on Forged in Ohio. I know there must be a lot more to this, but Josh, was this fight made in my comment section on Instagram?
It was actually made in Ohio MMA News's Instagram or
Okay.
Facebook or whatever it was, September of last year. He called me out. He said that he wanted to fight me, and I was like, "Let's do it. Let's do it." And I believe I think he was off for about a year at that point, and the commission wouldn't allow him to have a pro debut because I was already looking for a pro debut. I had a few fights fall through, and I had already gotten my show money for 247, so I couldn't go back. So it kind of got swept under the rug, and I was like, you know what, keep training. Maybe we'll find each other down the line. Year later, he knocks out his opponent in the first round in 25 seconds. Beautiful right hand. You know, I saw some things that I'm just very excited for this matchup. He actually called out my friend Lucas Siebert out of Stout to fight him at 25, and no way Lucas is making 25. I spar with him, and he's a gigantic 35er. I go up to Stout all the time, get working with them. But then I kind of chimed in. I was like, hey, I've been waiting on you since September of last year. You want to do it? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And even when the fight got announced, he's even been sending me messages over Instagram. He sent me, I had just gotten back from Toledo. I also teach kickboxing and MMA, and I train with Dante Leone and Max Hansen and a couple other great, some of the best grapplers in the world out of Adamas in Toledo. And he texted me, and it was 6 a.m. I was still so tired, and I just got home. And he texted me at 6 a.m. saying, "Good morning, sunshine," with a picture of him running outside. And I was like, okay, good for you. I'm glad you're taking this seriously. And then he started not backpedaling necessarily, but he's like, I just want the best version of you. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Even though we are opponents, we are not enemies. We are not, he's not my nemesis. This is just part of the job, you know, but he's a funny guy. He's a very funny guy. And I'll see how funny he is on Saturday, October 7th.
Yeah, well said. I think it's crazy that this dates back almost a year, right? And now when I saw that on my Instagram page and then I see the fight get announced by Ohio Combat League a few weeks later, I was like, whoa, this is actually insane that this fight, I guess, progressed more through those comments. Have you ever had a fight come together like this before in your career?
Not really. Going back to Trey Wills for B2, I was supposed to fight him in Dayton, but he didn't want to do the same day weigh-ins. He had pulled out against me 3 times. But, just some banter back and forth. I'm not one to smack talk. I'm not one to aggravate because, going into a fight, we all have the same emotions going into a fight. Butterflies in the stomach, but once those butterflies are in formation, it's ready to go. But this will be the first time someone that's called me out a while ago comes up and says, "Hey, let's go again." I'm more than ready for him now.
Is it difficult to create a game plan for a guy who's had just one fight in a 2.5 year span?
Well, he's a brawler. He's calculated, and he's also a very good grappler in the scrambling sense. Someone takes him down, he gets immediately back on top. He's also very good from the bottom with his overhooks. So working on everything. I see this the same as going into any of my fights. We have a solid game plan, but anything that he throws at me, I'll be able to counter and I'll be able to capitalize.
Yeah, and you've been very impressive so far inside the cage, showing a variety of strikes and things you can do. Is there anything that you're trying to prove in the cage at this point, or just are you trying to build on what you've already shown?
I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's about it.
I love it. I've heard you talk about it in other interviews, and maybe you talked about it in our first one too, but it's that flow state that you have out there. And I've never heard another fighter talk about it in that aspect, saying it is your flow state, and it's just so natural for you. You throw the right strikes at the right time. Does it just boil down to the preparation before fights that all that materializes at the right time for you?
It's everything. It's my training partners that push me through it. It's my coaches that are giving me the combinations, and they're the ones that see the things. They compile all the information on my opponent, find out his favorite feint, his favorite takedown, his favorite strikes, and I just capitalize and I just do my thing.
Yeah.
And once I get into my flow, good luck.
So your last fight was for LFA. Now you're back with Ohio Combat League. Why the return to OCL instead of fighting for LFA again?
We were supposed to get onto the October 6th card for LFA in Dallas. Sadly, that didn't come to fruition. They had a problem with matching people up for their September cards, so they weren't able to get around to me just yet. But it was kind of like a, not divine intervention, more of just like also to stay active as well. He's a very tough opponent, very tough wrestler, very, very tough all around. And I'm always looking to improve on what I have and build up off of what I have.
Yeah, you mentioned staying active. Why was this almost the perfect time frame for you, this early October date?
You're telling me I don't have to go to Dallas? You're telling me that I don't have to cut in another state? You're telling me that it's just right up the road over there? Of course I'm going to take that opportunity. And I'm also looking to almost a little bit of a redemption. Kemba Live or Express Live when it was first called when I made my amateur debut. Took that on a week's notice and I lost. And I haven't fought there since. So maybe it's a bit of a redemption. Maybe it's just because it's close. Maybe it's because all of my teammates and family out here, at least, can come in and watch. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just like the fight.
Yeah, I love that story of the fight, knowing that you lost in that building previously, try and get that win this time around. Do you see yourself fighting for LFA again down the road, though?
We'll see. LFA, 247 mentioned something down the line. Anthony Pettis Fight Championships. They're always messaging me every so often, the Showtime group as well. So we'll see. Whoever, whenever, wherever, whatever.
Yeah, you're game for anything, man. I can tell. I know you like
Yes, sir.
to stay active, and this will be your 12th MMA fight in 3 years. But have you let yourself think past October 7th in terms of when you'd like to fight after that?
I don't look past the opponent that's in front of me. The last time I did that, I was almost overwhelmed with all of the possibilities, and I was focusing on everything else and not my opponent at hand. So we'll see after the fight, but right now, I'm only focusing on Luke Chokan.
Yeah, good point, man. I got one more for you. I know we talked about your goals in MMA and a lot of big picture stuff the first time you were on, but I thought I'd throw this one at you as well. Where will Josh the Flyin Hawaiian Perreira be this time next year, October 2024?
Maybe in a big organization. I don't know. I'm just trying to take it all in, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
We'll
totally
see.
understand, man. You have the talent
We will see.
to make it there as well. I fully believe that. Before we wrap up, man, anything you want to shout out in terms of social media handles, sponsors, teammates at the gym, man? The floor is yours.
No, of course, of course. I'd like to thank my sponsors, Immortal Coffee over here, Immortal Martial Arts, Immortal Diet Optimization, Immortal Meals. We have a new brand meals coming out very, very soon. Don't Melt, my boy Miles
Yes, sir.
Robinson, Cam Jenkins, Lucas Siebert, Dante Leone, Max Hansen, Matt Brown, Mark Coleman, young kid Adam. He's only 16 years old, but he's about to make his kickboxing debut over in Indiana very soon. He's a stud. Miles Frisch, Aloha Beef Chips, my sponsor back home. Some of the best beef jerky you'll ever have. Thrax THC. And I want to dedicate my next fight to my grandmother that recently passed away as well. And I'll also be donating a good chunk of my fight purse, win, lose, or draw, to the Maui Food Bank as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your grandma, and that's a great story
Yes,
there
sir.
as well. Well, thanks again, man, for joining me on the show. It was a privilege to talk to you the first time, and I can say the same time this time around, especially with video this time. The last time it was just audio only. I know you're
Yeah,
familiar.
this is so cool now. This is so cool.
I know. Forged in Ohio's come a long way. It was episode 13,
yeah.
man. Feels like forever ago. But I know you are familiar with how I like to end these chats on Forged in Ohio. It's with the OHIO chant, even with your Hawaiian roots. So, OH...
I-O.
Thanks, Josh. I can't wait for your fight against Luke on the 7th. I wish the best for both of you guys, and you can guarantee we'll talk again soon, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. Hope to see you soon. Bye.
That was Josh the Flyin Hawaiian Perreira. He has turned his insanely successful amateur career into a 2-0 start as a professional. Now he returns to Ohio Combat League on October 7th, and he's fighting none other than Luke CaNiNe Chokan, who was on episode 41 of Forged in Ohio. It should be a great fight, and I'm looking forward to two Forged in Ohio guys scrapping on the 7th. As always, I ask that you download episodes if you're on the audio side wherever you listen to podcasts, and if you're watching with video on YouTube, then subscribe to the channel and leave the video a like to show your support. You can also find the show on Instagram and Facebook at Forged in Ohio. Thanks again for watching or tuning in. I've been your host, Jake Murren, and this was Forged in Ohio.